Hello, hello, hello. This is Garrett. I'm actually just starting up this new podcast. I'm half of the Willie and Gary podcast, Battle Royale with Willie and Gary. That's also a relatively new podcast, but just wanted to start something up. Um, I'm a big fan of craft beer and wanted to do a podcast about something that I like. So I decided that a good way to get going in it would be to do a beer review podcast. I don't know if there's any out there. I know there are some YouTube channels that review beer. My podcast will actually be simulcast on Twitch as well as YouTube. You can find me on those two platforms as well as Twitter. I'm on Twitter at Zim's Beer Review. I'm on YouTube. You can find me if you search Zim's Beer Review. So welcome to the very first episode. These are going to be pretty short, really just pick out a different craft brew every week, read about it, tell about the brewery a little bit. I'm going to learn about it at the same time that you guys are learning about it. So I figured a good one to start with would be one of my favorite breweries, that is. That is actually the Elysian Brewing Company. Elysian is out of Seattle, Washington. They have quite a few different beers. I live in Wyoming, and so we actually just started getting Elysian stuff out at my local liquor store relatively recently. So I've had the opportunity to try quite a few of their beers, but I'm really excited to try this. It's called Space Dust. It's an Elysian brewing company. The beer is Space Dust IPA. Like I said, Elysian Brewing Company is out of Seattle, Washington, and they recently were purchased by Anheuser-Busch, although they originally started brewing in 1995. They have quite a few different beers. So yeah, let's get right into it. One thing I did want to shout out, one of my really good buddies is a woodworker, and he makes, among many other things, these really cool beer bottle openers. So I'll show you this. This is what I'm going to be using on every one of my beer reviews, is this actual handmade bottle opener. If you are listening to the podcast, I highly suggest you look on YouTube, look on Twitch, find out about this. His company is called Shaver Wood. They relatively new company. He's doing it by himself out of his garage right now, but he's expanding, getting a lot more popular, has a lot more orders coming in. So I highly suggest you guys check him out. He's in the process of setting up his online store, so you can actually look at his items online and buy them online. And as soon as that goes live, I will definitely update everybody on that next episode, whenever that may be. So let's get right into it. Here's the really cool bottle opener. It has a magnet in the top, so when you pop it open, it holds right to it. Really cool design. Works great, fits in your hand good, and looks beautiful. So let's crack this open here, the Elysian Space Dust IPA. We'll go ahead and hopefully my first pour is a good one on my podcast here. This beer isn't quite as cold as I would like. I bought it earlier off the shelf. I'm going to let it sit in the fridge and the freezer combined for a few hours just to try and get it cold. There you go. You can see the color on it. Actually really light in color. I expected it to be a little bit darker. It's a golden color. Looks like a blonde ale. Has a little bit of a head, probably about a half-inch head, three-quarter-inch head on it. It's subsiding pretty quickly. That could be partially due to the temperature of this. But definitely smells like an IPA. Smells hoppy. Smells really hoppy, but it smells like citrus almost. Smells really fruity. Really has that citra hops in it, I would guess. I bet I could find out right here. Yeah, hopping with Chinook, with the addition of Citra and Amarillo hops late in the brew process. So yeah, that's a really sweet smell. So yeah, this is the Elysian Space Dust IPA. Give it a try. That's a really good beer. My first thought on that is it's hoppy. I would say this is probably not an introduction beer for someone who's trying to get into IPAs. This is a little on the hoppier side. I know there are lighter IPAs out there that would probably better suit somebody who's looking to get into IPAs but has yet to take the jump and try and buy one. This one, this is really good. Really good IPA if you know what to expect. But I think if you just wanted to get into an IPA, this one is a little on the hoppier side. I'd say any more hops than this is approaching a double hop IPA. This is getting pretty hoppy, but I do like it. This tastes really good. This is right in line with a lot of the other Elysian stuff. Definitely a delicious beer. I'm really, really satisfied with a lot of what Elysian has been putting out, and this does not disappoint at all. This is really really tasty. It doesn't say a whole lot. The alcohol content on this is actually really high for a beer in general, and it's actually high for an IPA. I'd say average beers, obviously depending on where you live, range between, well, down to 3.2% alcohol by volume. The average beer you might drink at a football game, you're looking at around 5%, maybe. IPAs, I'd say the low end is 5%. You can get some really light IPAs for under 5%. Those would be the ones that I would recommend somebody get into IPAs with, the lower end alcohol content, just a little bit more subdued. But I'd say in general, IPAs range anywhere from, we'll say 4.5 to 5-ish, all the way up to, I've had 10% IPAs. This one is 8.2% alcohol by volume. I don't know how well my camera is actually going to focus on that. Looks like it doesn't want to focus really well. So 8.2% is actually on the higher side for an IPA. It does taste heavy, like I said. That's a really good IPA. So while I'm sipping on this, I'm just going to go ahead and learn a little bit about the Elysian Brewery. I have not done extensive research. I should say I haven't done any research on them. And that's kind of what this podcast is going to be about. I'm going to learn about this brewery along with you guys. And hopefully my explanation and learning about it, my description of the beers can give somebody insight who is listening to this podcast rather than viewing it on YouTube and or Twitch. So going through here, like I said, Elysian was started in 1995. They have quite a few beers, actually more than I have tried. They have 10 beers, it looks like. This is one of theirs. This is actually their highest alcohol content beer, which I believe. This is one of their 10 normal beers. When I say normal, I just mean that you can pick this up in June and you can pick this up in December. It's not a seasonal brew by any means. So they do also have 6 seasonal beers. They have 1 spring beer, 1 winter beer, 3 falls, and 1 summer. I have tried 2 of their seasonal beers, and those would be the Great Pumpkin Ale, which is fall, obviously a pumpkin beer, and the Night Owl Pumpkin Ale, which is also a fall pumpkin beer. I will say the Night Owl Pumpkin Ale by Elysian is one of my favorite beers in general, and definitely my favorite seasonal beer. I know a lot of people don't love pumpkin beers. It's a hit or miss with a lot of people. I prefer them. I really enjoy them. And I would say the Night Owl Pumpkin Ale is definitely, if you like pumpkin beers, definitely give it a try. It is a really good beer. They do have some, meaning Elysian, they do have some specialty beers that they do for breweries or other bars. mainly on tap and mainly in Seattle. They have looks like about 4 different beers that are geared toward the Seattle scene, we'll say. Overall, they're a medium-ranged brewery. You know, they're not pushing out the stuff that Anheuser-Busch is pushing out, although they are owned by them now. They are a smaller brewery. They're big enough to get their beers out to multiple states, but I would not say they are a large brewery. But they do make really good beer, and when it comes down to it, that's what's important. So I don't know. I'm trying to find here for you guys where they are distributed to. I don't see it on here right now, but like I said, they brew in Seattle, Washington, and I live in Wyoming, and we have had it here for a little while. I'm in a smaller town, and our local liquor store, I'd say a few different local liquor stores here do carry Elysian, so there's a good chance that you can find some Elysian beers at your local liquor store, would be my guess. Yeah, that's a really good beer. As far as an IPA, that's a really, really tasty IPA. I could definitely is one of those that you're like, I could probably drink a 6-pack of this, but at 8.2% alcohol, I don't know if you should drink a 6-pack of this. Very delicious, very good beer. I highly recommend you guys check out the Elysian Brewing Company, and if you are a fan of IPAs, I highly recommend the Space Dust IPA by Elysian. I think it's a really great beer, and I would recommend it to anyone who likes craft brews in general. But like I said, if you're new to the IPA side of beers, I would probably start with something a little lighter and a little bit less alcohol content. And stay tuned, and I'm sure I will be reviewing something along those lines in the near future. So thank you for tuning in to the very first episode. I'd like to thank my friend Jason at Shaverwood Creations here, who made this really awesome bottle opener. Again, I recommend you guys check him out. He's on Facebook. He's on Instagram. You search Shaverwood, you'll find him. And he's going to have a website out soon. And I hope that gets out to a point that I can get his website into one of my upcoming podcasts for you guys. I don't want to tease this right here too long, because I know people are going to see it, and I hope that they're able to buy it sooner rather than later. So, Jason, if you're listening, pick up the pace on that website, right? So, anyways, thank you again for tuning in. This was the first episode of Zim's Beer Reviews. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you want to go out and try a beer. And until next time, thank you.